Citizen Sleeper is ace. So ace, I made a video about it. It's a warm, very human experience, and in many ways a life-affirming one too. In its essence, it is a sci-fi themed tabletop style RPG, complete with dice mechanics, multiple pathways and a variety of endings. But more than any of that, it is a story that embraces the little things that really matter. Citizen Sleeper has robots, samurai sword wielding gangsters, sinister corporations and gigantic spaceships. I mean, of course it does. These are the baubles and bling that draw us to sci-fi, on a surface level at least. And let's be real, we all like looking at futuristic stuff, especially given that the inventors and visionaries of our time think this is a futuristic vehicle. But with Citizen Sleeper, Gareth Damian Martin and their studio Jump Over the Age have been brave enough to go deeper. They dare to examine life in space, and what that would look like if we take our current human foibles and failings with us to the stars. They dare to talk about precarity, about debt, and perhaps most of all, about agency. They dare to talk about the nature of freedom in a world where our lives are consumed every day to keep industry's wheels turning and the profits rising. Using the amazing artwork of Guillaume Singelin to catch the eye and the haunting instrumental soundtracks of Amos Roddy, it draws us into the mysteries of the setting. Martin created a singularly brilliant experience with Citizen Sleeper, and I for one was shook, as evidenced by my video about it entitled I Can't Stop Thinking About Citizen Sleeper. And now, after consuming the digital art book and the Helion dispatches, I sit here having played through the new Hexport demo from Citizen Sleeper 2, Starward Vector. And here are my spoiler-free thoughts about what I've seen so far, in case you are not able to play it yourself. Well, the good news is that the game still feels like Citizen Sleeper, which is perhaps not a surprise given that Singelin and Roddy have returned alongside Martin for this release, meaning it still looks and feels reassuringly similar. It is this stylistic consistency which immediately draws me back in. It's like I have never been away, and as I see references to planets, companies and technology from the first game, the happy parts of my brain briefly spark and stutter to life. The format of the game remains largely the same, navigating using points of interest, spending your daily dice on performing actions designed to progress your missions, earn you money and unlock other locations. You still need to maintain your energy levels by eating, you still need to earn money to survive, and you will still roll 3 ones at the worst possible time. For all its warmth, Citizen Sleeper has always been a brutal environment. Much like the first game, you will be battling the clock a lot of the time, albeit one that only advances when you let it. But let it you must, as you attempt to spend your actions with one eye on that ticking. But there are some differences worth talking about too, though I will attempt to avoid mentioning the plot elements too much. In this game, you are a sleeper once again, that being someone indebted to one of the giant corporations of the setting, to the extent that they are put into stasis, whilst a copy of their consciousness is imprisoned in a robotic body to work off their debt. These sleepers have no labour, no human rights, so they can be worked longer, harder and in more dangerous environments than humans could, and are not really treated as living creatures by the legal systems of this universe. Whilst keeping your main character alive is going to be your main focus, Citizen Sleeper 2 introduces crew members, meaning that the selection, management and utilisation of friendly characters is going to be an additional consideration. This crew of yours will join you on another new element from the demo, that being operations, which are basically semi-contained missions that you will attempt in order to obtain parts, resources or info, all while you try to get your feet under you. There is definitely a more strategic element to this sequel, and it feels like a natural evolution from Citizen Sleeper, reminding me a little of Void Bastards or Deep Sky Derelicts. in the way that you can do these little salvage type missions and then return to the hub to rest, sell stuff and progress the main plot. In a game that, for me at least, was so reliant on togetherness, solidarity and shared responsibility, it was always a little bit dissonant that we could effectively only ever act as a single entity, albeit with opportunities to interact with others. These operations look like they could be a fun mechanical addition and will provide a way of breaking up the gameplay loop of sleep, roll dice, spend dice, eat, sleep. Not that I mind that particular loop. In fact, I get quite lulled into that loop for far too long. Speaking of evolving mechanics, Gareth Damian Martin has obviously heard me on my previous video when I talked of the ominous intensity I felt at times playing the first game, as the energy meter returns in Citizen Sleeper 2, and it now has another friend we're going to have to keep our eye on. That's right, we have a stress meter now, folks, and God help us if we or our crew members get too stressed. We lose dice, which is, stressful. What about the thematic elements, I hear no one in particular ask? Well, it feels like some of the same themes are being explored. Certainly freedom and agency are at the forefront of the early exchanges in the demo. Sleepers are effectively mechanical slaves given the ability to suffer and know that they suffer. I mean, they could probably find a way to make them less conscious, I bet, but there is something quite puritanical about the need to make them aware of the nature of freedom without having any way to access it. I speak plenty on my first video about the many cruel and unusual aspects of a sleeper's existence, and how the existence of a planned obsolescence, delayed only by using a medication that only their owner manufactures, is a breathtakingly corporate method of control, akin to that used by the Dominion in Deep Space Nine to control the Jem'Hadar. This reliance on something that you can only obtain by working to other people's agendas also works as a nice metaphor for a number of things, such as addiction, trauma, and debt. It simultaneously can explain why people will sometimes act against their own interest as a result. And this is where Martin's ability to weave contemporary issues into sci-fi dress comes to the fore. Citizen Sleeper 1 was a sort of an exploration of precarity, demonstrating how many people are on the borderline of poverty, one paycheck away from being dashed on the rocks of a ruthless capitalist system that hoovers out the pockets of those that do to funnel the wealth to those that own. But it also showed lots of examples of how people can come together to make a better future, and attempted to provide a reason for optimism, whether it be via interdimensional mycelium, communist farmers, or a shared responsibility with other residents. Citizen Sleeper 2 hasn't fully revealed itself yet, naturally, but I expect it will similarly explore a contemporary topic and offer a glimmer of hope for both our protagonists and for us playing the game. The Sleepers are ripe for storylines about how society treats those it considers less than human, or about how those controlling the distribution of key resources can exploit those that need them. Speaking of those that exploit, we do hear the names of some companies we know pretty well from the first game, and I think those that have read the Helion dispatches will likewise have an idea of the kind of large-scale monstrosities we may have to face at some point in the game. I am very excited to see what Citizen Sleeper 2 brings. In all honesty, I was only really expecting more Citizen Sleeper 1, a sort of content update more than anything that would develop the mechanical elements. But I must say, having tried and failed the operation on the demo, I can now see myself getting well into that format. The stress meter I am less fond of, though I am sure the exploration of accumulated trauma will prove to be an important thematic element later, and I am prepared to be patient on that one. The new characters that we meet all have that trademarked jump over the age intrigue, and Martin is able to instill depth and layers to characters in just a few sentences, meaning that I'm already looking forward to unravelling their stories and discovering what secrets and revelations they might hold. In the Hexport demo, it is revealed that the Sleeper may have found a way to change their nature significantly, perhaps unshackling themselves from one of the chains that makes them a slave, though it is also suggested this freedom may come at a huge personal cost. We have two new regions to explore, Darkside, an urban sprawl living in the shadow of huge solar reflectors, seemingly home to a criminal underworld, and the titular Hexport from the demo itself, a bustling industrial trade centre rife with commerce, rumour and speculation. The corporate powers from the first game are very much still in play, and I'm looking forward to learning more about the mysterious Solheim Corporation, who seem to have built much of the system's infrastructures and then simply collapsed. I'm left with these really intriguing questions. Will we meet any characters from the first game? Will we learn about the fate of the Pilgrim's Seed, the refugee ship we followed all throughout the Helion dispatches? Will we discover the canon fate of Erlin's Eye and the titular sleeper of the first game? Roll on 2025 and Citizen Sleeper 2, Starward Vector. Thank you for watching this quick video on Citizen Sleeper 2's Hexport demo. If you've enjoyed it, please give the video a like so that YouTube knows to show it around a bit, and subscribe for more of this sort of thing. It was tricky balancing useful information without spoiling the plot too much, but I wanted to put something out that reassured fans, interested newcomers, and gave a little insight into my first impressions. Needless to say, I'm pleased with what I've seen so far. It is consistent enough that it feels like a continuation of the game we love, but there has also been a thoughtful evolution of the gameplay loop and design. If you haven't watched my video on the first Citizen Sleeper, do check it out. It will fill in a lot more of the lore and info from the first game, and will put you in a good position to check out the sequel when it arrives in 2025. Thank you to Mrs. Inside Left for your help with the script, and the We Create Together crew for continuing to inspire me with your creativity and endeavour. Until the next time, be safe, look after each other, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.